We continue now at the top of Daf Kesuvos Daf and Mesechet Kesubos. This is Kesuvos Daf 15a. The Gemara here has Rav Yehuda Amar Rav explaining Rav Yochanan ben Nuri's position in the Mishnah. Rav Yochanan ben Nuri said, again, you have a situation where a woman was raped, so you follow majority. If the majority of the people in the area, if they're kosher, they're not people that disqualify her for kahuna, so she's not disqualified for kahuna. So the Gemara asked, what is the sheet of Rav Yochanan ben Nuri here, making a distinction between rov and not rov? And so again, Rav Yehuda says in the name of Rav that the case is specifically bekronos shel tzipore haya maisa. The story actually happened. Again, it was a story in the Mishnah. The story actually happened in the wagons of Tzipori. Rashi over here says, bekronos shel tzipori biyom hashuk. It means that the day of the marketplace. Shasios v'shayoros mimakam acher bo sham. There were other caravans coming from a different place. That's haya maisa. That's when the episode took place. Uchid Rabbi Yami, and it follows what Rabbi Yami says. Diyomer Rabbi Yami, because Rabbi Yami says, v'hu shahoisa siya shel b'nei adam ksherin overes l'sham. It's specifically when the people that were traveling through this caravan was also a bunch of people who are ksherin. They're also kosher. Uchid Rabbi Yanai, and it follows what Rabbi Yanai said. Diyomer Rabbi Yanai, because Rabbi Yanai said, niveles b'kronos ksheir l'kahuna. If she has relations in the wagons, so then she's kosher for the kahuna. The Gemara interrupts, b'kronos al kadaitach. You think she's actually having relations in the wagons? That doesn't make sense. Ela niveles b'shas kronos ksheir l'kahuna. What it means is simply, if it's the time that these wagons are coming in, so then she's ksheir l'kahuna. And the idea over here, again, like we said in the previous Amud, in Rashi, this is a double rov. As Rashi over here says, Dahash de'ika rov siya v'rov ha'ir. You really have a double rov. You have the majority of the people that are traveling in the caravan, plus the majority of the people of the city are all considered kosher. So in such a situation, when you have the double majority, that's why you're allowed to be lenient in this case. But let's say you would just have a situation where some person from Tzipori would separate from among the group, ubal, and have relations with her, havlad shtuki. In that case, the vlad actually would be a shtuki, meaning it would be in doubt in terms of that child. We would not follow the one rov. Rashi over here says, meaning if we knew for sure that the person came from the city, even though Tzipori is a city where the majority are people who are allowed to marry into the kahuna, the child would be a shtuki. By one majority, we're not going to say kosher. And again, the context over here is that on the previous summit, Rashi explained, really, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri in the Mishnah is following Rabbi Yeshua. In general, even in a situation of rov, we do not say it's okay, we say it's disqualified. But if you have a double majority, so then it's going to be okay. And the Gemara continues, it's like the situation when Rav Dimi came and he said that Zeiri said, and who said that Rabbi Chanina said, V'amri lo, and some people say simply Amar Zeiri, Amar Rabbi Chanina, that Zeiri said, that Rabbi Chanina said, Holchen acha rov ha'ir, we follow the majority of the city, Ve'ein holchen acha rov siya, and we do not follow the majority of the caravan. Now that doesn't make any sense, and so the Gemara asks, Klape laya, on the contrary, that seems to actually go the opposite of logic, Hani naidi v'hani kvi v'kaimi, because the people who are traveling, they're moving around. The general rule is if something is fixed in place, we say kol kavua k'mechsal mechsadami. We say things that are fixed in place are considered fixed 50-50, and we don't follow rov. So here you're saying we follow rov by the city who are not traveling, who are fixed in place, and you don't follow rov by the ones who are traveling. That doesn't make any sense. And so that's what the Gemara explains. Ella, rather, what it means to say is exactly what we said above. Holchen acha rov ha'ir v'hu de'ika rov siya bahada. We will follow the majority of the city. If you also have the majority of the people traveling through the double majority, that's a reason to be lenient. However, ve'ein holchen acha rov ha'ir greater, we will not follow the majority of the city. Now that's logical not to follow the majority of the city, because over there, again, like we said, kol kavua k'mechsal mechsa dami, we'll explain that in a moment. But not only that, v'lo acha rov siya greater, we won't even follow the majority of the people who are traveling alone, even though there, it's not a situation of kavua, they're actually moving, so we usually do follow rov. We will not follow rov in that case either. My time, what's the reason? Gezerah rov siya atu rov ha'ir. The reason is simply, we make a decree by the rov siya, the majority of people traveling, we say we have to be strict over there, since in the case of rov ha'ir, we have to be strict. And the Gemara continues, v'rov ha'ir nami. Now, when it comes to the majority of the city also, one second, why are we strict all the time? Iduka azli inhu legaba. Now, if they are the ones going to her, so wouldn't that also be a good majority? In other words, if they're separating from the city, that's not called kavua anymore, called the parish. Anyone that separates, meruba parish. You assume they separated from the majority. And so that's what the Gemara says. Lo no tzricha. No, it's needed for the case, like we said before, by kavua. That's a case really where it's a fundamental problem. Lo tzricha deka azla ihi legabayu. Let's say she's going and having relations with them. So she's going to them, and they are all staying in place, meaning the people in the city, tahavale kavua, because that's already considered fixed in place. V'yamar Rabbi Zeir, and Rabbi Zeir says, kol kavua kemechza al mechza dami. Anytime you have a situation of kavua, that's considered 50-50. In that case, you don't follow rov, and because of that, we don't follow rov in any of these cases unless you have, like we said, the double majority. And the Gemara continues, but is this really true? Do we really require the double majority in order to be lenient? We have other cases where we don't require a double majority. But we learned in a brayso, let's say you have 9 stores, kulan mochros basar shchuta, all of them are selling kosher meat, shechted meat, v'achas mocheres basar nevela, but one of the stores is selling meat that is nevela and that is not kosher. And let's say he buys from one of them and he doesn't know which one, so the halacha is sveiko aser. The halacha is you have a doubt over here, it has to be aser, and that's really what we said, kol kavua kamechsa mechsa. The stores are all in the same place, and you have to treat it like 50-50. Uvenimza, but if it separates from the majority, you find it somewhere in the street, so halach achar harov, so then you're allowed to follow the majority. Now in this case, you only have one majority, so you don't need a double majority over here. Rashi over here says, uvenimza basar hanimza b'shuk v'lo yadin and meiza pirish. If you find meat in the marketplace, you don't know where it came from, halach achar harov, you follow the majority. Since it wasn't taken from the area where it's in its fixed position, already was separated from, again we assume separated from the majority. The general rule is that we say that kol de parish meruba parish, anything that separates from the majority. So here you see just one row. Now if you're going to try to answer b'she'ein dalsos medina neulos, the case is that the doors of this area, this city, are not closed off, so maybe you have a double majority. There's also a majority coming from the outside, so maybe you do have a double majority here. As Rashi says, most of that outside is also majority kosher. They come here, maybe you have a double majority. Most of the people in the country are that way. You have the majority of the city and you have the majority of the country, but maybe that's what you'll answer, that you really do have a situation here where there are people coming in from the outside and you have a double majority, but that's not true. But Rabbi Zeir said, even though the doors of that area, that country, are closed, still we say that you follow, even though you only have one majority, you follow the one majority. And so to that, the Gemara says, you're correct, but when it comes to yuchsin, when it comes to marrying into the kahuna by yichus, so then we have to be extra strict, and that's why we are requiring a double majority. And the Gemara continues, Gufa, returning to what we just said above, Amar Rabbi Zeir said, Kol kavua kemechza mechza dam. If you have a situation of kavua where things are fixed in place, even if you have a majority, we treat it like 50-50. And Rabbi Zeir adds, bein lekula, bein lechumra. It doesn't matter if that fact that we're treating it like 50-50 ends up as a leniency, or if it ends up as a stringency. Either way, you're going to consider it 50-50. And the Gemara says, Rabbi Zeir. So where does Rabbi Zeir get this from? How do we know that not only are we saying 50-50 l'chumra, that's what we've been saying above, but how do we know we even say it l'kula? Ilem, if you're going to say from the following case, Mitesha chanuyos, from the case again of 9 stores, kulan mochros, basar, shchuta, v'yachas, b'sar nevela. All of them are selling kosher meat, except one of them is selling non-kosher meat. V'lokach me'achas mehen, he purchases from one of them, ve'enu yodeya me'eza me'en lokach, he doesn't know which one he bought from. So sveiko aser, we said that it's going to be aser because it's like 50-50. But if it's found out in the street, so then it's piresh, so then we do follow majority and we're lenient. So hasam l'chumra, there you're going strict. There's no proof from that case that we would even be lenient. So Ella rather comes from the following case. We have a case as follows: Mitishat Svardim v'sheretz echad beineim. You have 9 frogs. Only one of them is a sheretz. Only one of them is going to have tumah. Rashi over here says Ella Mitishat Svardim tosefta hi b'Mesechet taharos. This is a tosefta Mesechet taharos. Tishat Svardim meisim b'Rishus hayachid. You have 9 of them die in Rishus hayachid. V'sheretz echad kagon sav shu domel tzvardim beineim. There's one sheretz looks like a frog among them. V'naga be'echad mei, and he touches one of them. So the halacha is sveiko tamei. So over there we're going to be strict, and we're going to say tamei again. Mitisha tzvardim v'sheret zechad beinem v'naga be'echad mehen. He touches one of them. Ve'enu yodeya be'ezeh me'en naga. He doesn't know which one he touches. Sveiko tamei. The halacha is again you have to treat it like 50-50, even though it's a majority chance he's not tamei, and we say he's tamei. And again the Gemara says hasam nami l'chumra. There also it's just a situation of chumra. So rather the Gemara says ela rather mitisha shrotzim utzvardeya echad beinem. The opposite case. Let's say you have 9 shrotzim and only 1 svardeya. So the majority chance over here is that he touched something that was going to make him tamei. V'naga be'echad mehen. He touched one of them. Ve'enu yodeya be'ezen mehen naga. He doesn't know which one he touched. So b'rishus hayachid, if you're in rishus hayachid, sveiko tamei. In this case, the suffix is going to be tamei, even though in this in rishus hayachid we're going to say tamei. B'rishus harabim sveiko tar. But if it's in rishus harabim, we're going to say that the suffix is tar. Rashi over here says elamitisha shratzim afi tosefta b'mesechet taharos. This is also tosefta. V'katani. What does it say over here? It says b'rishus hayachid sveiko tamei. In rishus hayachid the suffix is tamei. B'rishus harabim sveiko tar. In rishus harabim it's tar. Now alma kemechza dami. So what Rashi explains is you see from the way we're saying in rishus hayachid tamei and rishus harabim you're tar. That means we're really treating it like 50-50. Ulakula, and we're willing to even say that lakula, meaning in rishus harabim, even though you have a majority tamei over here, but we're willing to say it's 50-50 and be lenient in rishus harabim. We're willing to go lenient. The ilav kemechza dami, because if you didn't treat this like 50-50, ein kan suffix tumah, it wouldn't be a suffix elavadai tumah. It would for sure be tumah. The haruba shratzim, the majority here are shratzim. So in other words, the proof over here is from the fact that you have majority shratzim, but yet we're saying we're really treating it like 50-50 by saying b'rishus hayachid tamei and b'rishus harabim tahor. That shows even in a lenient direction we're treating the kol kavua kemechzal mechza dami. And the Gemara continues umida oraisa minola. Now where is the source for this? From the Torah. And the Gemara says Amar Krab, because the pasuk says v'orav lo v'kam olav ad sheyiskaven lo. It's talking about the fact that if a person commits murder, he has to have killed the person that he intended to kill. Rashi over here says Amar Krab v'orav lo ad sheyiskaven lo pratlam iskaven laharog hazeh v'harog hazeh. We're saying over here, we're learning from the pasuk, and this is again Rabbi Shimon's shita, as we'll see in a moment. If you had intention to kill one person and killed another, you would not be chayiv. Hachi darish le Rabbi Shimon b'Sanhedrin. That's Rabbi Shimon. That's what he says. V'amrinan hasam v'rabbanon hechi darshili. Now the Gemara over there asks, that's very nice. That's Rabbi Shimon's drasha. But what is the rabbanon? What do they say? What do they respond? And so the Gemara says v'rabbanon. How do the rabbanon respond? Amri devei Rabbi Yanai. They learn something else from the pasuk. They say in the yeshiva of Rabbi Yanai that the rabbanon understand the pasuk as follows: Prat lezorik even legav. It comes to exclude a case where you throw a stone and there are a bunch of people that are all together and hit somebody and kills them. Rashi over here says Amri devei Rabbi Yanai prat lezorik even legav means to exclude a case again where you throw the stone into a group of people. Lesoch haburas b'nei adam Canaanim v'Yisraelim. You have a group of people, non-Jews, Jews. Avol shnei Yisraelim omdim. Let's say you just had 2 Jews. V'neskaven larog zeh v'harag zeh. He tried to kill this one. He ended up killing the other one. V'hisru bo v'kival hasra. They warned him and he took asra v'nafla hakal chaveiro chayiv, and he killed the one he wasn't intending to. There he would be chayiv. It's only in the case where you throw to a group of people, that's where you have an exclusion where you're pater. V'hainu time in dekamar hacha v'rabbanon mishum de Sanhedrin hachi. So the reason why we're using the phrase v'rabbanon is because we're taking this text from the Gemara in Sanhedrin, like we just said earlier. You had Rabbi Shimon's shita, the Rabbanon's shita, and again the Rabbanon say the pasuk. We're looking for the source in the pasuk of the idea of kol kavua k'mechzal mechzadami. So we learn from the pasuk to exclude this case of zorik even legav. And the Gemara now clarifies the case. Heichi dami, what exactly is the case? If the group of people that you're throwing to is 9 non-Jews and there's 1 Jew, so you should simply say it's majority Canaanim, so you don't even need a pasuk. Of course, in this case, you're going to be pater. Inami palgo palga, and even if you said it's 50-50, suffix nefashos lakal, you still wouldn't need a pasuk, because the general rule is you're not going to put someone to death, give them the death penalty if it's a doubt. We say suffix nefashos is lahakil. So what must be the case? Lo no tzricha, the case must be needed as follows: the ikotisha Yisraelim, there are actually majority chance you killed a Jew. There are 9 Yisraelim. U'kanani echad beineim, and there's 1 Kanani among them. The havale Kanani kavua, but the Kanani is considered kavua, is considered fixed in place. V'chol kavua k'mechzal mechzadami, and every time of kavua it's like 50-50. And again, if it's 50-50, you're actually going to get off, because we're going to say suffix nefashos lahakil. Rashi over here says typically derubik Kananim ninu v'lamali kroy. You won't need a pasuk if it's majority kananim. V'inami palgu palga akati lo etzrachar. Even 50-50, you don't need a pasuk. The mehechetesi dinikli. Why should you kill him? Safik nefasha, safik dinin nefasha slakil. By capital cases, we're lenient of Yitzilo Eida because it says Yitzilo Eida. And so that's what the Gemara said. The Havale Kanani Kavua Beineim Vashmin Haikra Dechol Kavua Kemechsal Mechsadami. You see over here we have Kol Kavua Kemechsal Mechsadami, and it's even to be lenient derived from this pasuk. And the Gemara continues, Itmar, we learned as follows. Rav Chia bar Ashi Amar Rav. Rav Chia bar Ashi says in the name of Rav, Halacha ke Rabbi Yossi. The halacha is like Rabbi Yossi in our Mishnah. Again, in our Mishnah, the case was this girl was taken, was talking about the fact that she was raped when she went out to get water from the spring. And so Rabbi Yossi over here is saying, again, as the Mishnah went on to quote from Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, but Rabbi Yossi was going on to say that if it's majority Jewish, if it's majority that don't create a disqualification to kahuna, so she's not disqualified. And here we have Rav Chia bar Ashi in the name of Rav saying halacha Rabbi Yossi. Rav Chanan bar Rava amar Rav horas shah haisa. And Rav Chanan bar Rava says in the name of Rav, no, that was just a horas shah. In that particular case, we were lenient, but that would not necessarily be the halacha all of the time. Rashi over here says horas shah haisa hacht Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Again, in the Mishnah, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri went on Rabbi Yossi's case and said that if it's majority Jewish, then you could be lenient. That's only a tzorech shah haisa. That was just at that time. Oro sham shartzi de heker devarim lahatir. Maybe there were some other reasons why they could be lenient there. Avoladoros tre rube ba'inan. But if it's talking about ladoros, you're actually going to need two majorities. Now, the Gemara on the next Amud is going to address this two majorities or not, because that was a later Amora explaining the Gemara that you need a double majority. We'll address that in a moment. But in any case, Rav Chia bar Ashi says in the name of Rav, halach is like Rabbi Yossi, and Rav Chanan bar Rava says in the name of Rav, no, that was just a horas shah rather, and it would not be like that forever. And so the Gemara continues, Meizav Rabbi Yirmiyah. Rabbi Yirmiyah asks, are you suggesting that when it comes to Yichus, you do not need a double majority? Is that the suggestion over here? But we learned in a Mishnah, and we'll take a look at Rashi here. Meizav Rabbi Yirmiyah, Kasalka Daitach. Right now we think, to Misham Rov Ha'ir Geredita, that what we mean is if the majority of city and just one majority, not a double majority, that alone, Achsharuha, that alone is the reason why she was not disqualified. V'yomar Rav alone, we think that Rav was saying, Halacha Rabbi Yossi. Rav means with just one single majority, the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi. Again, like we said, on the next Amud, we're going to clarify whether it's two majorities or one majority. We'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Tesvav Amud Beis.